Okay, that was a little glitch. Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Literary Hour. We thank you for joining us, and I'm your co-host, Jackie Sayegh, and with me is Dr. K. Moses Nagbe. Hi, Prof.
Hi, Jackie. Another Friday, right?
Another Friday,
Yeah,
and
how
I would
beautiful
say,
that is.
I would say to people as I guess share the show. I guess other people might be interested in seeing it. Spread the word about the Literary Hour. And as you saw in the poster today, we will be discussing another book in Achebe's trilogy, which is The Arrow of God. And it's really a great book, Prof. I like it a lot. But maybe we can just talk a little bit about The Arrow of God. It was published in 1964. It's the third novel by Achebe. There's Things Fall Apart, Arrow of God, and No Longer at Ease, right? It's called the African Trilogy. So we've done No Longer at Ease. We did it last week, and we had discussed Things Fall Apart. In fact, we discussed Things Fall Apart a lot in
Yeah.
almost all.
Mhm.
Yes, and today we will discuss the Arrow of God. And some of the themes are tradition versus new ways, Christianity versus traditional religion, hubris, indirect rule, and democracy. And as we say, last week we said that "No Longer at Ease" was taken from a quote. We don't know where. Well, I don't know where "Arrow of God" was taken from, but I think it's related to the bow of God's wrath, but sinners in the hands of the angry God, Prof.
Yeah,
Your
sinners
big
may have
sermon,
a-
sinners in the hands of an angry God.
Certain,
Yeah, and
yes,
it's
Edwards.
the bow of God's wrath is bent, and the arrow made ready on the string. And justice bends the arrow at your heart and strains the bow. And it is nothing but the mere pleasure of God, and that of an angry God without any promise or obligation at all, that keeps the arrow one moment from being made drunk with your blood. Ooh, that's
Powerful. And,
ooh, that's powerful, Prof. Yeah. So if you look at the book, I have the book Arrow of God. They're always changing the back. I like the old back. But you know, Achebe, when they ask him, as journalists do, or people who are interviewing him, literary writers who want to interview, they ask him what's his favorite book, and he never can tell,
so
the
many
favorite book.
writers.
But he says, and this is the preface to the second edition of this book, and Achebe said, whenever people have asked me which among my novels is my favorite, I've always evaded a direct answer, being strongly of the mind that in sheer invidiousness, that question is fully comparable to making a man to list his children in the order in which he loves them. A pater familias worth his salt will, if he must, speak about the peculiar attractiveness of each child.
Mm.
But listen, Prof, he goes on. For arrow of God, that peculiar quality may lie in the fact that it is the novel which I am most likely to be caught sitting down to read again. On account of that, I have also become aware of certain structural weaknesses in it, which I now take the opportunity of a new edition to remove. He says, an Arrow of God has ardent admirers as well as ardent detractors, right? But Prof, um, I really like this book. I know last week I started with, I like No Longer at Ease. I seem to like every book. But this book, Prof, I agree with Achebe because I read this book 3 days ago and I read it again last night. It is richer to me than No Longer at Ease and Things Fall Apart. It delves into the characters. I guess and I wouldn't deign to ever say that Achebe uh, um did this or did that, but I think that with Arrow of God, more than Okonko, he shows the hubris and what happens when hubris takes over your life. But I like the book. So before we go into the book, what do you think? What say you?
One of the things that people should want to go reading that book for is that, you know, the modern African personality is, in a sense, confused about understanding the very characteristics that make up the African personality, just as in other races and other regions, there will be certain things that map out the personality of those people. There is a paper that I looked at, thanks to what you transmitted to me. The listing of what is meant to be an African. We talk about naming. We talk about the cuisines. We talk about the concept of God.
Yeah.
Outside of the understanding of Judeo-Christian contours of our religiosity. So if you take that book and look at chapter by chapter and map out what does it mean to be a true African, you are going to find it in within the covers of that book. So that is one important thing that yes, you find glimpses in the other books, but it is like you have, well, don't get me started on talking about cuisines, talking about jollof rice. The best place to go when you are looking at a pot of jollof rice is the crust. That is where the ingredients and a lot of things settle. So if you took that analogy and you look at arrow of God, the arrow of God, you will find out that it is where a lot of the things about our Africanness got to be distilled, and one will so easily understand and a kind of imbibe what needs to be said about the African personality.
I think even when he's describing the festivals and the traditions, even the wedding ceremony,
Yeah.
he goes into great depth.
Mhm.
You know, you can almost see,
Yeah.
you know,
You feel it and everything.
and feel it. Yeah, I think Arrow of God, whereas Things Fall Apart is very concise, and
Mhm.
Arrow of God, there's a richness there.
Mhm.
There's an imagery that is not in Things Fall Apart, and that's just me. I feel like there's an imagery that it pulls you in more
Mhm.
than Things Fall Apart.
Mhm.
So I think before we go into the book, um, I don't know who've read the book.
Mhm.
Those of you who are watching, did you read the book?
Mhm.
Remember, we said we wanted to make it interactive.
Yeah.
So we put out the poster and we said we're going to do Arrow of God.
Mhm.
I put out the poster, I think Monday after
Yeah.
we spoke, and then again today, and then I think Focus on Liberia put it on. So
Mhm.
we're going to read this book, and
Mhm.
we're going to discuss this book, and you're going to join us because
Mhm.
you did say that this year we should start doing book circles. So we will start doing that soon. So Arrow of God, Prof, is mostly about
Mhm.
Yezulu,
Izulu, yeah, that's Izulu.
Izulu,
That
right?
is,
Who is the priest
yeah.
of Umaru?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the priest of Umaru, and he has his wife, he has his children, and
Mhm.
this is mostly about also the coming of the Europeans
Mhm.
and the effect it has on this
Mhm.
on the Igbo tribe, on
Yeah.
the Igbo tribe. Yeah. So when unlike Okonko,
Mhm.
who his son Nuwoyi ran away and joined the church,
Mhm.
Izeulu, who is the
Mhm.
priest,
Mhm.
told his son to go to the church.
Yes.
Yeah, he told his son to go to learn the white man's ways, because he says, that you will get some power and things like that to
Mhm.
be able to understand the white man.
Yeah.
So he did tell his son to go. Yeah. And I have okay, I think on page 46, I've been marking some of
Which is
the
good.
pages.
Mhm.
Yeah, on page 46. Yeah, so he when he was talking to Uduche, who is the one
Yeah.
who he tells to go
Mhm.
to the church to go
Mhm.
learn the white man's
Mhm.
ways. He says to him, and I quote, I'm reading now: "The world is changing. I do not like it, but I am like the bird Ineke Ntioba." When his friends asked him why he was always on the wing, he replied, "Men of today have learned to shoot without missing,
Mhm.
and so I have learned to fly without
Mhm.
perching. I want one of my sons to join these people and be my eye there.
Mhm.
If there is nothing in it, you will come back.
Yeah.
But if there is something there, you will bring home my share."
Mhm. Open mind.
Yeah, the world is like a mask dancing. If you want to see it well, you do not stand in one place. My spirit tells me that those who do not befriend the white man today will be saying, "Had we known tomorrow."
Yes. This whole idea of caution and having some hunch that something that is not understood today, tomorrow will be understood.
Yeah.
And one has to create the preparation
Yes.
to be able to meet that which is forthcoming. In that sense, then, it is open mindedness that is redemptive.
And the interesting thing is that Oduchi is his father. I mean, Israelu is a priest.
Yes. High priest at that.
Okonko was an ordinary man, and
Yes.
he didn't want
Yeah.
his son to go.
Yeah.
But Israelu is a priest,
hmm
and he's telling his son to go to the white
Yeah.
man, even
Yeah.
to the church,
Yeah.
learn the ways of the white man, and come
Yeah.
back and tell me,
hmm
because if there's power, I want
Yeah.
my share.
Yeah.
And because of that, Israelu gets a lot of condemnation
Mhm.
from the town people.
For the townspeople, yes.
Yeah, because they couldn't understand why you. I mean,
Mhm.
you're a priest. Why
Yes.
would you,
Yeah.
seeing that the white man's religion is
Mhm.
in conflict
With
with
yours
you or
of
competition?
alcohol,
Why
yes.
would you? Why would you
Mhm.
send him there?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. But anyway, he sends him there to go and learn. And then the beginning of the book is about war,
Mhm.
right? There's a war coming, and it shows you the communal nature
Yeah. Of
of
the
the
African.
so maybe we can talk a little bit about that theme,
Mhm.
about the community
Yeah.
and the communal nature of Africa.
Now, it is very much important that you raise that particular point. There's always, given the forces and voices that a kind of infused themselves into the African culture, and today's day there are pockets of a kind of bitter rival and what have you. People tend to think that this rivalry that you find in pockets of Africa uh, has been the norm. But the typical African has drawn much from the spirit of communalism. Uh, the African has seen the magnetic power of being communal.
Yeah.
You go and talk about the way our people lived. People made sure that the societies were protected by the group. In terms of annual farming, people made sure to a kind of create coups where they went from one household to the other, and that is where this fellow from Canada, who were talking something, and he mentioned something about the people say, if you, the host of a group, if you have a strong arm, then you become the model for people to follow. All right. So in the case of communalism, our people believed in, well, someone is not well. People pull your hands together. Those who had herbs and all the kind of things, those who had healing powers, they pull their strength together. You talk about harvesting. People again came around and pulled themselves together and work as a team. So in so many instances, whether it was farming, whether it was health, whether it was sickness and what have you, our people in the past days before uh, the Westerner came to our place, they were out there helping one another because there was always a mystery of healing in working together.
But you know, Prof, even so there are these unspoken rules.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they were about to go to war, first of all, so when they were about to go to war, the elders came together,
Yeah.
and the elder said, "You're going to take a palm, I think, and or a palm or something else. You're going to go there and let them choose
Yeah.
if they want war or they want reconciliation,
Yes.
right?" So they said, when they went to the town, this is the thing also now about, remember last week we were talking about no longer at ease, and we
Mm-hmm.
said that, we said to the guy, you should have known.
Yeah.
If you were one of us, you should have known.
Yes.
So when these people went to this town to go and
Yeah.
take, they were supposed to go of they were supposed to go about and show them and say, do you want war or do you want
Mm-hmm.
reconciliation, right? And then they said, when you're going, we know you are hot-headed,
Mm-hmm.
but keep your anger under control.
Mm-hmm.
Go and just show them what you're supposed to show them and be finished.
Yeah.
So when they went there, people were like, why are you here?
Yes.
And they said, oh, we want to meet the elders. And the guy said, and I quote, you have come at a bad time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in Igbo land knows that the Operi people do not have any business on Eke Day.
Yes.
You should have come yesterday
Yeah.
or the day before. Son of our daughter, you should know our habits.
Mm.
You so
Where,
if you are
where
one
have you
of us,
been?
yeah, where
It's
have
like,
you
where
been?
have been? Yes.
Yeah, and the thing is that the reason why they would say choose war or choose this was because they intermarry.
Yes.
So that's why he says son of our daughter.
Daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, and then Akukelia says your habits are not different from the habits of other people,
Mm-hmm.
but our mission could not wait.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so they're talking, and the guy and one of them said, you can sleep here, and tomorrow we will hear you,
Mm-hmm.
but not today, because today is not the day for
So
so when they were going, they told
yes.
them, they say, it is not our mission to ask them any question except the one question which Umaru wants you to answer,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you should hold your tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he says to them, so don't go and do anything. But they get to the town, and of course, they're waiting. They're supposed to sleep there. But then Igbo start to say, but why are you here? He starts to poke fun. He says, so you can now see, son of our daughter, that we cannot get our elders together before tomorrow. That's Otikbo saying.
Yes.
And so then Igbo is saying to him, father of my mother, do you wait till tomorrow? Do you not beat your equal? So they are all laughing
Mm-hmm.
at the people who came from Umaru to ask the elders whether they want war.
Now, one of the important things we get in that passage is the culture of diplomacy.
Yes.
That is what is happening over there.
Yes.
Even though they get to a point of restraining themselves and what have you, still there is a moment of diplomacy.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't, people talk about, if people are barbaric, they engage in. No.
Yes.
Everything. That is why, to understand a people's culture, you must always study the context of each aspect of the culture. failure to do that, and you just go blindly and begin to disparage that culture, there is what? There is a failure out there for you.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that there's so much. I mean, the elders held sway
Mm-hmm.
before they went. Right before they went, one of the oldest men in the village. He
Mm-hmm.
spoke to Akukelia. He says, "I want to speak to the man we are sending to Okperi.
Uh-huh.
It is now a long time
Mm-hmm.
since we fought a war,
Okay.
and many of you may not remember the custom.
Yeah.
I am not saying that Akukelia needs to be reminded, but I am an old man,
Mm-hmm.
and an old man is there to talk." From the way Akukelia spoke, I saw that he was in great anger. And they were sending Akukelia. So the
Yeah.
guy is trying to warn Akukelia to
Yeah.
temper him down.
Mm-hmm.
He said,
Mm-hmm.
it is right that you should feel that, but we are not sending him to his motherland to fight.
Mm-hmm.
We are sending you, Akukelia, to place the choice of war or peace before them. We do not want Okperi, which is the town.
Yes.
We do not want Okperi to choose war.
Yeah.
Nobody wants war.
Mm-hmm.
If they choose peace, we shall rejoice. But whatever they say, you are not to dispute with them.
Uh-huh.
Your duty is to bring word back to us. We all know you are a fearless man, but while you are there, put your fearlessness in your bag.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If the young man who will go with you talk with too loud a voice, it will be your duty to cover their fault. I have in my younger days gone on such errands and know the temptation too well. So they told Akukelia, do not go there to go. You are fearless. You are going as a diplomat, like you said, Prof. Yeah.
You again, now, if someone says I love this book or something like that, things that are being picked up, it's like taking a fine comb
Yes.
or taking a rake
Yes.
and kind of lifting those things that become the ornaments
Yes.
of the book as we are looking at in the place there. Now, you see two things. One is the importance of intermarriage.
Yes. Yes.
Something that becomes a bond that really solidifies the thing about peace between sectors of a population or between sectors of a town and what have you.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's what you see. That is what you see happening in the process.
Okay.
And
Yes.
the other thing is that of the importance of age.
Yes.
The importance of age. I know every now and then there might be a kind of deviance in the society, yet to a large extent, the importance of age cannot be so easily disparaged or something of that sort or denied.
Yeah.
I see what you're talking about. I also see that if you look at Greek literature, you look at the Iliad and you look at the Odyssey, you find the importance of age in terms of being able to bring the young generation to a point of understanding what experience means.
Yeah.
Without experience, so many things can go wrong. So you've got to, whether you are hot-tempered or what have you, you've got to be able to have an ear. You, a younger person, you've got to have some ear for the deliberation of age.
And those of you who read the book with us, you see, the people in Umaru, they knew that Akukelia had quick temper.
Mm-hmm.
And people might ask, but why did they choose him? They chose him because that was his mother's town.
Yeah.
And that's why they call him son of our mother.
Yeah.
So that's why when they sent him, they said, well, he's going to his people.
Yes.
But when he got there, and all the people were going to the market, and he said, oh, I got to put this in front of the elders. The people said, but you're one of us.
Yes.
You should have known that today there will be no elder. So now you sleep here,
yes,
and you come and tomorrow you will meet the elders. But of course, because he's quick tempered, he said, well, it can't wait. I got to see them now. And the people say no. And then what happened? What happened? You see, Dwight read the book. Thank you, Dwight. Yes. So you see, what happened is that Dwight understood the assignment. So what happened was that Akukelia now, when, of course, the people in the town started to make fun of him, right? Because they say, look at this man, you from us, yet look at you. And then what happened? So Igbo is laughing with his friend Otikpo, right? And then Igbo says something to Akukelia that touched him to the core. Because what happened is that he says to Akukelia says to him, go back to your horse, Akukelia. Go back to your horse, or I will make you eat, and Igbo says to him, and I will read the passage. He said, I quote, if you want to shout like a castrated bull, you must wait until you return to Umaru. I have told you this place is called Operi. And that is because it cut Akukelia to the core.
Yeah.
Because Akukelia couldn't have kids.
Yes.
His two wives that he had, they had to give them to other men to impregnate them for them to have children. And then you go and call a man a castrated bull. No, bro, honestly.
What may have been, you see, that is why words are very much important in
any words are important. Yeah.
Words are in my local tongue, it says words are like palm kernel shells. They don't rot. Words are like palm kernel shells. They don't rot. Which means, hey, whatever you are saying and to whom, wash your tongue.
Yes.
So this person, what he had intended to have been a joke or something of that sort, see how almost immediately that joke and the reality clashed, and what he did to the other guy.
Yeah. So now Akukelia is ashamed. And because he's ashamed, he does something that is an abomination. He goes into Igbo Obi, into the Obi, and he takes his Ikenja, and he destroys it. The people couldn't even understand that somebody could do that. They said Igbo, when Igbo went in, Igbo had to look.
Yes.
Okay, so people will say, I read Morning Yet on Creation Day. It's a very good piece by Achebe. But there's another one called a Chi in Igbo cosmology, right? And people might say, but the man, he just threw something away. What he did was to spiritually kill Igbo, because the Ikenja is each person's little chi.
Yes.
Which is your personal God.
Yes.
It comprises of your chi, your indichi, which is the ancestors, the aka
your soul. That's
your
what
soul.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Your soul. Yeah. So it's like when you before you do anything, you go to that to your chi, to your ikenja. It is your it's almost like I don't know how we call it. I guess he calls it a personal God.
Yes.
But to me, it's your essence of who you are. Before you go for a job, you pray to your Ikenja. But it's not the Ikenja you're praying to, it's your ancestors. It's your
it's an intermediary to the upper world.
Yeah. So Akukelia now goes and takes this man thing and splits it, breaks it. And you see the Ikenja I was reading, they say it's one is split and one is buried with you. And when you die, and yes, so what Igbo did was to just grab the machete and kill Akukelia. Right? He killed him. No, not the machete, sorry, the gun.
Yes.
Yeah, because when Akukelia saw the gun, he was rushing to get the gun from Igbo, but Igbo killed him. And the part that hurt the people of Umaru was that the body was returned without any explanation, nothing. They just sent the body back. But the people, to show you that they themselves, they can reason. They did say he did a bad thing. They said not only did he do a bad thing, that maybe the punishment fitted the crime, but they said, but to come without saying anything, just send the body back. For them, that was not.
Silence is sometimes an insult as well.
Yes. Yeah. And then the old man came back to tell them, I warned you. Right? He said, I warned you. You know, I mean, I'm sorry for just to keep reading, but
that's part of
it's just so beautiful, you know, some of the words, right? He says men of Umaru. This is one of the old men talking, right? He was saying that, look, we old people, we should have spoken up even more. But then he says, men of Umaru, why do you think our father told us this story? So he had told us, they told us because they wanted to teach us that no matter how strong or great a man was, he should never challenge his chi. Right? He said, this is what our kinsmen did. He challenged his chi. But we were his flute players, but we did not plead with him to come away from death. Where is he today? Right? But let us leave Akukelia aside. He has gone the way his chi ordained. So the chi is also fate.
Yes.
Yes.
Predestination. All those things.
Yeah. So yeah. So now in all of this, while they're talking so and so, is Welu, right? Iswelu, who is the chief priest.
Yeah.
He has another someone who really don't like him.
Yeah. Nwako, yes.
Yeah. No, so and Nwako is the one who is like the richest man, the one with the title. But Nwako also does not like Iswelu as a priest. He likes Indimili, who is the other priest. Right? So Nwako took this chance to speak at this gathering of what to do now that they have killed Akukelia. And Nwako says, my father did not tell me. Right. So because some people were saying, oh, let's go and fight Operi. Right? And some people were saying no. Right? And Iswelu was saying, look, this is over. But Nwako says, my father did not tell me that before Umaru went to war, it took leave from the priest of Ulu. The man who carry a deity is not a king. He is there to perform his god's ritual. You know, and then he said that Iswelu is a man of ambition. But Umaru showed him that Igbo people knew no king. So he's saying that Iswelu's father used to act like he was a king. But the Umaru people show him that he wasn't a king. He said it is time to tell his son also. Yeah. So then they go to war, right? And they go to war, and the war is ended by who? By the white man, Mr. Winterbottom. Sorry, so the white man, not satisfied, he stopped the war, he broke the guns and everything. So that part is over. The war has ended. There's still deep enmity between them, but the war has ended, right? Okay.
Okay. Well, and that's what again, that's an important thing that comes out over there concerning either you decide in the society or in a generation, either you decide to not go to war, or eventually you have to bear the consequence, and that consequence may not be a one-shot thing. It may drag on for a while, because war, because of its destructive potency, has the capacity of creating lingering enmity. That is why it is, for those who understand the importance of keeping away from war, that is why they will always try as much as possible to sound the warning that it is better to, as Churchill will say, it is better to judge than to war, as you see coming out of that particular incident in the book.
Yeah, and also, um, and they will give you a choice. It was not like they went to war. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like when they killed Ikimifuna.
Mm-hmm.
When they went to that village, the village had given them a
Yeah,
woman, a
yeah,
daughter, and a son.
yes,
And the man whose wife they had killed, he took
uh-huh.
the woman as his wife.
Uh-huh.
And then Ikimifuna came to live with Okonko.
Yes, to be
So they
killed.
avoided war.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
And
in this
Umbana.
one, like they said, that's why they sent him to go and tell the people, okay, you've done this. What do you choose, war or peace? And if
Mm,
there's peace, there has to be restitution.
yeah,
But of course, his hot temperedness, flared up.
yeah.
He destroys Igbo's
Mm-hmm.
Ikencha, and of course he dies. They bring
Mm-hmm.
the body back. The people are not satisfied with the way they brought the body back,
Mm-hmm.
and of course there's war, stopped by the white man. So, but you see, Prof, when you look at Umaru poised as it was on this cusp of new age, because things were coming, right? The white people were building this road
Mm-hmm.
where they put people on. They were bringing goods because they said that they were bringing goods, and then you see that there are three. There are then you see then there's John Good Country from
Mm-hmm.
Niger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Moses Unachuku.
Yes.
Now Joseph Good Country, right, Prof?
Mm-hmm.
He was more holy than the Pope. Yes. So sometimes when a new religion comes, people get so immersed in it that they cry more than they bereaved.
The thing about it is that if you, again, since we're talking about basically the trilogy and what have you, when the white man went to Umuahia, and those who were considered ifulefu, women, and
Yeah.
all the time, when they were converted, with the sense that they were equal to those who had not held, those who had held titles, then of course bringing them from the bottom of society to a human equality, they had to act like better than the Pope. So it is more of, and this is again the psychology of making a nobody somebody.
Yeah.
If you have someone who was a nobody, and you brought that person up, you can even find that in leadership, where if this guy is playing the social psychological act and what have you, those who were not messengers and all those who were nobodies, if they bring it up, they will be the ones who will carry on the choo choo choo. They will always they will be your ears and everything, and try as much as possible to even lie on those who may have been blameless in certain things. And that's what you find in the art of religion out there.
Yeah, and even in this, I've forgotten. I think it was Mr. Wright or Charles.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was that you had Mr. Winterbottom.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the head.
Yes.
And they
Ability
had
to
this
interpret.
indirect rule. In fact,
Yeah.
they talk about it that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you have to let the Africans keep their customs, their way of doing things, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Wright, and Mr. Wright was the bad one, because he was the one working on a
On
road,
the road,
beating
yeah.
the people.
Mm-hmm.
But the other guy, I think his name was
Clark.
Charles. What's his
The
name?
Clark.
Clark. Clark.
Yeah.
Clark, he's a very interesting man,
Mm-hmm.
because Clark does not agree with Mr. Winterbottom in everything.
Mm-hmm.
But because he says that, the British government, when they said that we should find people to become, leaders,
Mm-hmm.
all the people he were finding, they were exploiting
Yeah.
and turning on their own people and
Yeah.
exploiting their people.
Yeah.
So he couldn't understand why these people would exploit other people, and they says that he says yeah, okay, this is Clark saying, he says, so he gets this manifesto, I guess, that says that, let the Africans have the customs and things. This is indirect rule.
Yeah.
And Winterbottom explains it to him, right? indirect rule based on native institutions, right? And so Clark says, so Clark starts to think, he said, not all the customs in Africa are good customs. People forget that there were some customs that were really bad. So Clark says, and I'm reading from Achebe, he says, has his honor ever rescued a man buried alive up to his neck with a piece of roast yam on his head to attract vultures? He says, the great tragedy of the British colonial administration was that the man on the spot who knew his African and knew what he was talking about found himself being constantly overruled by starry-eyed fellows at headquarters, so that the people didn't know what they were talking about, right?
And,
Yeah, and he says that
and yet, yeah, it should be noted here that Africa, like other cultures, gradually they rise to the light.
yes,
So yes, Africa may have had its own things and what have you. It is not only in Africa that there might have been bad practices.
no problem. And that's what I'm saying. Okay, let me just read this last thing. So
Yes.
Clark says, Winterbottom says,
Yes.
when he saw Africans exploiting other Africans, right?
Yes.
And he's thinking, he says, he could find some excuse for the overseer because the overseer was treating the other Africans bad. He said he was because he said, okay, this man is treating the other Africans on the road bad. Because this man is a man from the other clan, right? From another clan. In the eyes of the native, he's a foreigner. Those people don't know him. But what excuse could one offer for a man who was their blood brother and chief? Right? So what you're saying that, okay, yeah, this man, he's not from your town. He can treat you bad. But what about the man from your own town? And I agree with you, Prof, because you see, even now when you're talking and people say, oh, Africa has primitive custom, they forget that there were a lot. I mean, people were beheaded.
Yes.
People were, people were, even in England, they were horrific. You had to give all your money. The peasants had to work. You had to do this. You had to give up, pray every day to the Vatican, things like that.
And the thing about it too is that you even find that prevalent in law, in the law of the culture. You find out that that's where some of the very sad things went on in the hope of keeping people subdued and all that kind of a thing. So I just kind of adding to what you are saying about what eventually they realized going on in the African culture at the time.
I think people forget that as cultures evolved, European culture, as they evolved, it had time to evolve.
Yes.
As the African cultures were evolving, slavery came.
Yes.
And then colonialism. So as they were going up, boop,
yes,
they hit against this wall.
Yeah.
So there's over 100 years of stagnation.
Yes.
Yeah. That there was no evolution of culture. There was no evolution of culture. Yeah. I think people forget that.
It's important to contextualize those things so that we all know what is going on. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, as we're going on this story, so things are happening.
Yes.
Isuelu is there. He's the chief priest in the village. He's taking care of the village. There's Nwako. Nwako is always against him. But things are going on. Things are going on. The Odochi is in the church. The church, in the school. He's learning, and things are moving, right? And we have John Good Country, who is this religious zealot, right? Who is saying that, people should really love God and things like this. And then you have Moses Uchukwenu. And Moses says, look, I myself, I'm a Christian. I've seen the power of the white man, and I'm a Christian. But Moses is a pragmatist.
Yes.
Moses is not like Moses said, I became a Christian when it suit me. You know? So John Good Country, he says that, the thing that will show people, if you really are a Christian, there are two pythons, two snakes in a village, right? The royal python and the minor member, as I call it. So he said, if you can kill the royal python, it can show that you are a man of God, that you love God. And Moses says to him, he says, you are not the first teacher I have seen. You are not the second. You are not the third. If you are wise, you will face the work they send you to do here and take your hand off the python. You can say that I told you so. Nobody here has complained to you that the python has ever blocked his way as he came to church. If you want to do your work in peace, you will heed what I have said, right? So, and then he says to Uduchi, right? He turns to Iswelu's son and he says, as for you, they may call you Peter or they may call you Paul or Barnabas. It does not pull a hair from me. I have nothing to say to a mere boy who should be picking palm nuts for his mother.
I know.
But since you also have become our teacher, I shall be waiting for the day when you will have the courage to kill a python in this Umaru, right? A coward may cover the ground with his words, but when the time comes to fight, he runs away. So what does Uduchi do? He decides to kill the royal python to show that he is a man of God. So he captures not the royal python, but the minor member, as I call it, and he puts it in a box in his place. And I think it was his brother who went into the room or something, but or one of the sisters, and the box was moving. So of course they start to scream and they bring the box outside in a roundabout, and they call Iswelu. And Iswelu comes. Thank God he did not pierce the box. And when he opens the box, the royal python comes out. An abomination by his own son. So he of course he calls for Oduchi and the poor boy Oduchi, the poor boy, his mother said he's not coming because she knew that they were going to beat him, right? But thank God the python is not killed, right? But the people in the village, so now this is the build up coming, right? The first one, you say we shouldn't avenge the death of Akukelia. The second one, your own son, who you sent to the school, to the church, has imprisoned the royal python. What if it had died? Iswelu now is between because he's like, okay, there's a punishment for killing the python, but there's no punishment for putting it in a box. So what do I do to my son, right? So what is he doing, Prof? What does he do? He's thinking, but while he's thinking, the people themselves, they are saying, but what kind of priest is this? And of course, Nwako is fanning the flames. You see now? Look at this priest. What kind of priest is this?
This one is not qualified.
This one is not qualified. What kind of priest is this? Yeah. So and then we see that. So Moses was right? Moses was right. But what's his name? Clark?
Yes.
Yeah, Clark. So Clark is having problems also because Winterbottom is there, but Clark has his own ideas of how to go about doing this indirect rule. Because all of the people that they're choosing to make them leaders in the villages, these are the same people exploiting their people. Nothing has changed over the years. So they are exploiting the people because the people that the way he figured it out is that if you have a village and there's a church, a white church, right? The people who are strong in their tradition, in their faith, they are not going to that church. But the outcast, the people who nobody wants, they're going to the church. But when they get to the church, what happens? The people in the church, they make them leaders over the people.
Can you just imagine?
Who have the power, And so that was the problem, that they were giving power to these people who were disempowered by the society, so it was usurping the traditional order of
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
And
that
it
was the
upside
problem.
down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So and then it comes the problem where when they are there, they are working on a road, they can't get paid.
Mm.
Uh-oh. So what happened?
Mm.
Yeah. So they are afraid to go and protest, right? So they are saying to the people who work there who speak English, say, you go and talk to the man because
Mhm.
the man can understand you, you know. So he goes to talk to the man, but Mr. Right is so bad, he starts
Mm.
to beat them,
Mhm.
which is another problem in a community. So things are coming to a head. Things are piling up. So what happened is that Mr. Captain Winterbottom, which is
Mm.
now the crux of the matter, Winterbottom said, you know what? Mm-mm, I'm tired with these people. I'm going to find myself a good man who is a leader in the society, and I'm going to give him power over
Mm.
his people.
Ooh.
Right? And who does he choose? He chooses Izuelu. Right? Izuelu is a priest, but he remembered Izuelu because what happened was that Izuelu, it seemed, was a little light and according to Winterbottom, with no basis in fact. He said, oh, maybe the man ancestors, there were some white people among them. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So he sends the people, he sent, I think, two police officers
Mm.
and one, and I think it was Good Country or his
Mm.
messenger to go and get Izuelu, to bring Izuelu to him so he can tell Izuelu that you are now my second, my
Mm.
deputy among your people.
What a
Right?
guy.
But Izuelu is a, how does that go? Izuelu is a priest.
Well, probably the whole idea of Zulu being the Zulu being the priest is seen as secondary to whatever the Westerner has brought to give to him. Yeah. So this whole idea of mislabeling or a concept of which ones of certain positions are supposed to tap the others come into the picture. So it's more of relegating the so-called status of the African within his or her tradition, as opposed to the status that a Westerner brings to the co-order, and that's what you see happening. So in that context, Israel, it's given the challenge to determine which ones of the status symbols that he would prefer to operate under, and of course he chooses the one that Winterbottom has given him.
Yeah. So in fact, Winterbottom, there's a very, you know, Winterbottom thinks that he understands African culture
Mhm.
because he's been there so long, but he
Yeah.
doesn't.
He doesn't.
Because he
That
doesn't.
is
Because
it.
listen
He
to what he
doesn't.
says. He says, I would appoint him. That's Izuelu now. I will appoint him paramount chief for Umaru.
Mhm.
I have gone through the records of the case again and found that this man's title
Mhm.
is Ize Ulu.
Mhm.
The prefix Ize
Mhm.
in Igbo means king. That's not true.
Mhm.
In a purest democracy, Ize doesn't mean king.
Mhm.
He says so the man is a kind of priest king,
Mhm.
you know, and so he sends for he sends for him to go and tell and tell them that they found this chief. So he sends the people to go and pick them up, right? So and it's kind of funny when they go because the funny thing is that when they go and I have all these pages when they get into the town and they say we're looking for Izelu and the people say which Izelu? You say how many Izwelus? You know
Mhm.
they're just
Mhm.
like and the proverb says in this thing it says your neighbor does not show the man you owe your house. You see, so the neighbors are protecting him. They don't want to show him.
Mhm.
When they say which one, they say which one
Mhm. Which
which
one?
one are you talking about?
Mhm.
You know, so they finally find him. They
Mhm.
find Iswelu, and they go to him and they say to him, "Oh, we are here to pick you up." The king, not the king, they want to see you. And Iswelu laughs. Again, he laughs because these people are not from his clan. Israelu does not go. You come to Israelu. So he says to them, I'm not going, right? And the guy says, oh, but they say you should go. And he says, no. 149. I mean, Prof, I just love reading the interplay between these people. You know, I mean, it's just
which is important because we are focusing on this book and lifting some parts of it to make points is very much important.
yeah, but it's just that I have marked the book. Yeah, yeah. So he anyway. He says no. He says he's not going, and the people should go back to Winter Battle and tell him he's not coming, right? Yeah. One 33. But anyway, so they said they are not going back, and unless he goes with them, and he says no, I'm not going. I'm not going with you. So he said you can take my son. I think you can take my son, but you are not. But I'm not going with you. So anyway, he goes back. The messenger goes back to Winter Bottom and say, the man says he's not coming. And Winter Bottom is turned like crazy, right? He says to them they should go and arrest Israelu. They should go arrest Israelu and bring him. And then what should they do? They should put him in jail and he should stay there until he's ready to see them. Now, this is the priest, Prof. This is the priest that you are
listening to this humiliation.
Yeah. So they arrest Israelu, they bring Israelu, but when he gets there, Winter Bottom gets sick, right? So Israelu is waiting with his friend. He's waiting. Israelu refuses to eat because of the indignity of how they brought him there. And he said while he was there, because this man has a fertile imagination, he started to think about how the people in the village would talk, because they've already said to him, well, the white people were your friends. You send your son to their school, to their church. So yeah, they call for you now. You can go. So he's fermenting all these things that all the people now, they hate me, right? They really don't like me. They're making fun of me. And he's just thinking and thinking and thinking. And he's still in that place 44 days, Prof. That's a long time.
44 days.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a long time. And I think that Winter Bottom, he was sick. He did get better. But I think he wanted to punish Israelu. How dare you refuse my offer? I mean, not my offer, because he hadn't met Israelu yet. Israelu was just in jail at the time. So when he finally did call Israelu, he thought that Israelu would be so happy to get all of this power, right? He said, I'm going to make you the district commissioner, so and so. I mean, the head or the chief. And Israelu laughed. Because Israelu was not interested in, and because Israelu refused, he put Israelu back in jail. Right? He put him back in jail. So, Prof, what do you think about that about the town not having their priest and by putting the priest in jail? What do you think?
Now, again, this is an interplay of language. Language has its own bearing in terms of the content of the ideas that people have.
Yes.
Unless you fully understand the power of the people's language, you will misread certain signals, and in that process, do things that eventually will show you a buffoon. Now, here is Winterbottom, who, because he has stayed X number of years in the place, that really believed if he didn't make any effort to understand the naturalness of the language, will believe that he understands the people. What will bring the people joy? What will bring them, a sober reflection, all those things there. You have to be out of your mind to believe that you fully understand. That is all the reason why, for instance, when he brings Izulu to into his presence and what have you, and he thinks that Izulu is going to be happy because there is this thing. What is that as compared to being a priest? Not just priest, but what, a high priest. What is that?
What he didn't understand was that, remember the first guy,
Yeah.
Okeke, that he gave so much power to it. The guy
Okay.
started calling himself king.
Okay.
But that guy was not a priest.
Okay.
Iswelu had power already.
Okay.
You know, and so giving him this power meant nothing to him.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
like belittling him, and he
Yes.
will not stand for anything like that. Only
Yes.
if he the winter about only if he knew the power of or the importance of being the higher priest in that community. Unfortunately, he didn't understand, and of course, given his Western power, he will not care to understand the nuances to be able to make the proper determination of what to do or what not to do.
But yeah. So while he's there waiting for Winter Bottom, Iswelu is getting mad with his town, with the people, you know. And so when his friend Achebe comes, he says, "What troubles me is what the whole clan is saying." Right? He says, Akwebe says to him, "What troubles me is what the clan is saying." Iswelu has been thinking the same thing, but he doesn't want his friend to know.
Yeah.
So he says, "Who tells the clan what it says? What does the clan know? Sometimes you make me laugh." He says, "Did I not stand up then and tell Umaru what will happen?" And then Ukwebe says something that is at the heart of. He says, "I do not doubt that, but you forget one thing, that no man, however great, can win judgment against a clan."
Okay.
However great. You may think you did in that land dispute, but you were wrong. Umaru, which is the town, will always say that you betrayed them before the white man. And they will say that you are betraying them again today by sending your son to join in desecrating the land. You know, so this thing about, if Iswelu had said to one of the villagers, "Send your son to the school," that would have been different. But for the high priest to send their son, to send his own son, was something that the clan could not forgive. Yeah, they could not forgive. So then Iswelu will not accept responsibility, which is one of the things of hubris. He does not want to accept responsibility. And he says to Ikwebe, "Don't make me laugh. So I betrayed Umaru to the white man. Let me ask you one question. Who brought the white man here? Was it Iswelu? We went to war against Okperi, who are our blood brothers, over a piece of land which did not belong to us, and you blame the white man for stepping in? Have you not heard that when two brothers fight, a stranger reaps the harvest? How many white men went in their party and destroyed Abame? Do you know how many? 5. 5. Now, have you ever heard that 5 people could overrun a whole clan? With all their power and magic, white men would not have overrun entire Olu and Igbo if we did not help them. Who showed them the way to Obami? They were not born there. How then did they find their way? We showed them and are still showing them. So let nobody come to me now and complain that the white man did this and this. The man who bring ant-infested faggots into his hut should not grumble when lizards begin to pay him a visit. And then he say, "We have shown the white man the way to our house, and we have given him a stool to sit on. If we now want him to go away again, we must either wait until he is tired of his visit, or we must drive him away." Right? Do you think you can drive him away by blaming Iswelu? He said, "I have my own way and I shall follow it. I can see things where other men are blind." Right? He said, "I am unknowable." So he says, so he goes on, he said, "I have passed it." He said, "If they listen to me, If they refuse to listen to me, oh, I have passed the stage of dancing to receive presents. Right? So he says that then he tells the guy about his story his father told him. And Achebe says, "Was that how your father told you the story? I heard differently from my father." You see, there's a deviation now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the thing about collective memory. Yeah,
Yes.
the thing about collective memory.
But if you look at Isuelu, I mean, yes, he did send his son, but Isuelu knew what was coming. This white man power, he knew. He continues and he says, and this one is he said, if someone came to you and said that Isuelu sent his son to a strange religion so as to please another man, what would you tell him? I say, don't make me laugh. Shall I tell you why I sent my son? Then listen. A disease that has never been seen before cannot be cured with everyday herbs. I like that. When we want to make a charm, we look for the animal whose blood can match its power. Do you think he said, no, my friend? He said, he said, when this he goes on, that was why our ancestors, when they were pushed beyond the end of things by the warrior, sacrificed not a stranger but one of themselves and made the great medicine which they call Ulu. So now it's almost a sacrifice. He's sacrificing his son to this new disease called Christianity, right? Because he knows that this is something he has never seen before and that he must, right? So Isuelu now, after he explains everything, and Winterbottom, right, since him keeps him in that place for so long, it's time for him to go home, right? So they let him go. And when he gets home, he still feels that people are talking about him, right? He still feels that, right? So what happened is that the people now, what's happening is that they have to come to the feast of the yam, right? But there's something that Isuelu says that is very interesting. He says here, it's on paragraph 16. He says, so Isuelu gets mad. And he says, okay, you know what? I will fix them. The people who speaking, he said, I will fix them at the feast of the new yam, right? Because the feast of the new yam, Isuelu has to call the feast of the new yam. Before they go to harvest, Isuelu has to call it. Before they plant, Isuelu has to call it. And Isuelu say, okay, they've been talking about me, I will fix them. See, so you see, Prof, hubris. Yeah. So they go and and he refuses. He says, and this is an important feast. This is not just any, what you call it, Babati feast.
Yes.
This is the meat feast, right? So they are waiting for it because the festival will bring gods and men together in one crowd. It was the only assembly in Umaru in which a man might look to his right and find his neighbor, and look to his left and see a god standing. But Isuelu refuses to call the yam, to call the harvest. Huh? Why, Prof? He said, they say, we're planting our yam, we're waiting for you. Why is Isuelu doing that?
Well, this is a man who believes he had agency now.
Yes.
And when the moment comes, he needs to show who has a better agency to kind of bring things to a point where order has to be established.
No, but he's petty also, because when they ask him, he says to them, he said, do not say that I'm treating your words with contempt. It is not my wish, but you cannot say, do what is not done, and we shall take the blame. I am the chief priest, right? And he says, do not forget, I too have yams. But he puts it on the God. He said, I'm just an arrow, right? In the bow of the God. God will tell me what to do. But what he's doing is he's not listening to the God. At least I don't think so. He's infusing his feelings of rejection.
Let us not forget too now that there is a duality in him.
Yes.
The duality of the spirit and the duality of the flesh.
Yes.
Those clashing a kind of bring in a kind of conflict that eventually disrupts things in the community and in the country as it will be.
Yeah, and then he tells him, "Oh, I myself, I have yams. I can go." But he goes back and then he comes back. He says that after consulting with the deity, and the sixth village will be locked in the whole year for 2 moons.
Yes.
And the people are astonished.
Irate.
Yeah, and in fact, they said that Israel has gotten crazy like a man because his mother was mad,
Yes.
right? But then you see what happened is that Mr. Good Country saw this crisis, this new yam crisis, and said to the people, if you bring your offering to the church, right, we can guarantee the harvest, you can have your harvest and things like that, right? He says that they could come. And then they started to come. So when the news spread, right, anyone who did not want to wait and see all his harvest ruined would take his offering to the God of the Christians.
Yeah.
And that's what they started to do. So in a way, Israelu paved the crisis, right? Because yes,
there is often a point made that people do not create rebellion.
Yes.
But conditions do create rebellious behavior.
Okay.
And that is what, of course, you find in the place. I don't know what the audience thinks now with respect to what we've been doing.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, at the end, Israel goes mad because the people, and in fact, his refusal to call for the yam harvest, the refusal turned the people towards the church.
Yeah.
Right. So it was just by tending to their needs, right? The people are turning towards the church, and reading this book made me think of No Longer at Ease. If you remember, the main character, when he talked about tragedy, right? He says, conventional tragedy, the person commits suicide, everything's finished. But he said the real tragedy is never ending. It goes on and on, and in this book, you can see the chipping away until Israel can stand it no more. Yeah. He can stand it no more. And what do they say? They say, if a man says yes, sometimes his cheese says yes, but sometimes his cheese says no. And one of the quotes from Achebe that is central to this book, even though it's about in another book, is whenever something stands, something else will stand beside it. Nothing is absolute. I'm the truth, the way, and the life should be called blasphemous or simply absurd. For it is not well known that a man may worship Ogugu to perfection and yet be killed by Udu. Because remember the other book when the guy said, oh, this man from Okperi, he went to Mabiano and he was killed. And the people from Okperi say, oh, he would not have been killed if he was in Okperi because the gods in Okperi knows him. But when he went to Mabiano, the gods there. No. The gods from Okperi mistook him for somebody from Mabiano. So it would seem that it's truly the center cannot hold, as Achebe says, because the center in this book is Israelu. He's the chief priest. The story radiates around him. Yeah, it radiates around him, and that's what they say. You will not win against the clan. But he did not listen to Okwebes because he was angry at them. And his hubris also, he was prideful. And these things now brought him to the end. Yeah, madness instead of death as Okongo. Yeah. So I think that this book, I mean, we kind of like went over it, but I think that it's really a good book. It's, I mean, even yeah. In fact, Nwako made it even worse because when they sent for Nwaka, when they sent for Iswelu, Nwaka had a big meeting. He says, but there is one thing that is not clear to me about this summons. Perhaps it is clear to others. If so, someone should explain it to me. Iswelu has told us that the white ruler has asked him to go to Okperi. Now, it is not clear to me whether it is wrong for a man to ask his friend to visit him. When we have a feast, do we not send for our friends in other clans to come and share it with us? And do they not also ask us to their own celebrations? A white man is Iswelu's friend and has sent for him. What is so strange about that? He did not send for me. He did not send for Duezo. He did not send for the priest of Idimili. He did not send for the priest of Iru. He did not send for the priest of Udo. Nor did he ask the priest of Ogugu to come and see him. He has asked for Iswelu. Why? Because they are friends. You know? He said, or does Iswelu think that their friendship should stop short of entering each other's houses? Does he want the white man to be his friend only by word of mouth? You know? So he said, did not our elders tell us that as soon as we shake hands with a leper, he will want an embrace?
Anyway.
Yeah, this book is really, I mean, it shows you, of course, the clash between the old ways and the new, right? It shows you also that that people change with times, right? Moses is a good example of that because he's a Christian, but he knows the power of tradition. You know, so all of these things are converge in this book, you know, and you know, one of the themes, you know, this is a theme that we don't discuss, you and I, but there's a theme. I would say it would be you should have known. Because even with men no longer at ease, they ask him, do you not know? How could you know? Which means you're an outcast, right? And yet it's Iswelu when they tell him, you will not win against the clan, right? You will not win. Even what's his name? I wrote it down, but I can't find it now about democracy. It tells you that it tells you that he says, like Clark says, this is a democracy, you know, in its purest form, you know, but there's also the chief priest. Yeah, and I guess his anger overtook him. You know, it overtook him. Where is it? Yeah. So let's look at some of the comments. I don't know if people read the book. We asked them to read the book, but let's look at some of the comments, Prof, and see if people are reading the book. C.K. Morris Carney said, watching live from Jamaica Road, Bushman Island. Wow. We hope your data is not finishing, Morris. We're so grateful that you're watching it, you know, and please feel free to join the conversation. Thanks for the topic under discussion. Yeah. The struggle between change and culture. That's exactly what it is. You know, it's a struggle. Okay, Moses, now thanks for writing textbooks for our children. Prof, Morris is talking to you.
Thank you, Morris.
Yeah, Daniel said they intermarried. They also intertraded. Yeah. They in fact, the road. Remember the road that they were building, and somebody was making fun because the road united the markets, but also there were some roads that were leading nowhere. You know, and people wondered why they were building. They were building those. So I say yes, like the old man said, I don't fight anymore. I will only speak. Yeah, that's what he said. He said I will only speak. It clearly shows us today how some of us don't speak out early or more when the wrongs are done. Yeah. And that's what he said. He said we should speak out. And then, you know, at the end he said, you know, we didn't speak out. You know, when Akukelia was going, some people didn't speak out. Yeah, but you're right, you know. Denny Phillips said evolution of African culture. So if slavery, okay, maybe evolution of African culture was obstructed by slavery, but 400 years later, why are Africans still involved in fetish beliefs? Don't you think that slavery, as horrible as it was, helped Africans to become civilized? Oh my God!
Oh man, Denny.
What is your definition of civilization?
What are you talking about? What what do you think is often the impact of what has gone to your soul? 400 years might not even be scraping the top of the whole thing. So to say now that slavery is uh well, Jackie, please deal with
Do you really think that 400 years Africa would not have evolved with their customs and things that you would I mean cultures changed then, and Denny, you had little kids being pushed up into the chimney in England. You had people in France. You've seen Les Miserables. You steal a loaf of bread, you go to jail for, I don't know what, 20, 50 years. And what do you call fetish beliefs? The great America right now, they have these secret societies that they have other things that they still have some beliefs here that are repugnant to
yes.
other people. But I guess my thing is what is this word called civilized?
Yeah.
Is what I need to understand.
If you have time, you want to watch a video by a fellow called Akala, Akala, and where he talks about Black history, the lost pages from human history. It's a lecture that the guy delivered. I like you to find time and watch that. I know you have your own views and what have you, and this is not a place where we impose views on other people. But please, it's better to do a little deeper look than to come celebrate slavery here and a few other things as if So please, it will be a good thing, and then we can talk a little more.
And I would say that Liberia, I mean say Liberia, sorry. There's nothing civilized about a group of people who were calling another race heathens and savages and pushing them out of the United States because they couldn't live. I mean, if you read some of these things that they are a blood against them, they will corrupt their morals and things like that. So I don't think that the Europeans were civilized either.
So,
So don't. But anyway,
please
as Paul
go
says,
deeper. You
yeah.
read a little more.
Yeah. Okay. Tito Sheriff said, I believe that the Holy Python incident shows that the people still strongly believe in the African religions and gods. This is still the case today in Africa. Many Christians and Muslims in Africa still hold to some aspect of the African religion. This shows that Christianity and Islam did not actually succeed in any African practices and belief. Okay, I think for me, I just think that it is only on the African continent that we see our beliefs as something to be ashamed of. I mean, Asian beliefs are
Yes, go
incorporated
to
into their
India.
life.
Go to
You
India.
go into their homes, you bow down. I mean, it becomes part of them.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
know, but for us, it seems as if this civilization has made it that we are almost ashamed. And now, don't get me wrong. Of course, there are things in a culture that should be gotten rid of. But surely, no culture is 100% bad. That you cannot think, that there are elements of goodness, like communalism, like looking out for people. I mean, anyway, okay, so Franklin Worry say he's watching. Thank you, Franklin. Emmanuel Jackson is watching from Boston. Hope you don't have snow, Emmanuel. Tito said the people could not harvest the yams until Isuelu has called the new yam feast to give thanks to Ulu. He refused to call the feast. Do you think that his action undermined his position as chief priest and gave Christianity an advantage? Yes. John proposed that the village offer thanks to the Christian God so that they harvest their crops with immunity. Do you see this as penetration of African practices into Christianity? Yes. Thank you, Tito. Yep, exactly. Because it undermined the position as chief priest because the people felt that the chief priest was against them. If you remember, Tilo, they said, tell us the offense, right, Prof? Tell us what we have done so that we can make amends. And is there. And he did not. He did not. He said, oh, I will go in again. He said, I will go in again and I will find out what Israel wants. But he didn't. Is there when they asked him, they said, I think it's yes, it's on page 208. He says, they say to him, tell did Ulu tell you what his annoyance was? Is there no sacrifice that would appease him? And Israel say, I will not hide anything from you. Ulu did say that 2 new moons came and went, and there was no one to break kola nut to him. And Umaru kept silent. And then Okofo said, what did he expect us to say? I don't know what was he expected you to say. Let us not quote. So he went on and on. He said, we asked Israelu what was Ulu's grievance, and he's told us our concern now should be how to appease him. So they go to him, and then he said, oh, I will go back. Then he comes back and say no. The God says no. So I think that his action did undermine his position, because it was his feelings coming into play. It was not what Ulu said. It was what Israelulu wanted. Yeah, and of course, yes, of course, the penetration of African practices into Christianity. But that's what Moses said. Moses said that, look, there are some things that can be left alone, and there are some things that cannot be left alone. And what Joseph did, I think, what he did was, John, good country, what he did was to play to the tradition, to say, you guys want a harvest. You used to give the yam to your God. Now this God says, bring the yam to them, to him, and these things will happen. And now he doesn't just want one yam, he wants more yams. But the people were so desperate, of course, they went there. So yeah, I think you're right, Tilo. That's exactly what happened. Stephen said, I like this part of the book. It's like saying to a Liberian who showed a white man how to murder and remove President Tobot
Mhm.
and sent Liberia back to the Stone Age. because they were saying that Israelu was the one who brought the white man, Prof. Israelu said, I didn't show him the way. It was Stephen Tino said, it's arrow of God tragedy. The heroes in things fall apart and no longer at ease. Both had the same fatal flaw. What about Israelu? Oh, Tilo, I like your question so much. Yes, I think it was a tragedy. When you're reading articles, they say it's a tragedy. No longer at ease was a tragedy, because he fell right when great men fall, Prof,
Mhm.
like Okonko. But
Yeah.
you know something, Prof? Let's discuss Tilo a little bit. It was arrow of God really a tragedy? The town was saved, the clan was saved, the man was sacrificed. Isn't that how it should be?
Well, if even it has to be, then the question is, what is tragedy?
Mm-hmm.
Tragedy has to do with someone of high station falling from a pedestal.
Yeah.
So if we look at it within the context, then of course, maybe in the case of the town, if you talk about reversal of fortunes, where what might have been befallen them was reversed, and a kind of happy ending within the context of the people who came in, then of course we have to draw a line between the hero falling and the people being redeemed. In which case, the fall of the hero is more of a sacrifice that eventually redeems the town.
Yeah. So a tragedy for Israelu, but not a tragedy for the town, for the
Exactly,
clan.
that's what it is.
Yes. So again, so then if you look at it, then you will say that the clan was triumphant.
Mm-hmm.
So the clan survived. So in that way, it was not a tragedy for them. It was a tragedy for Iswe Ulu.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, Tilo read the book. He understood the assignment.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that African writers, this is Tilo again, spoke about gender-related violence long ago. An individual woman could not conduct or run or own her own business. She had to ask her father or husband so that they be considered their property. Another African writer, Miriam Ba, so long a letter, yeah, who also wrote of gender inequality was Miriam Ba. Yeah, Miriam Ba in the book, so long a letter. Yeah, we did that book here, Prof. You and I talked about her friend that she kept writing to back and forth,
Yeah.
and the divorce and things like that. Yeah, so we did discuss that. Yeah, and even in this book, but you can see that within their sphere in this town, women had a little bit of agency, because if you remember, in the beginning, when one of the townsmen beat his wife, remember, Prof? And the woman, the people, when she came back to the town, they came to talk the argument. And the Umaru decided that no, let the woman stay a little bit, you go.
Mhm.
Right, because she needed time to
No,
be
I think in the African tradition generally, women are protected. I always say that we, if we bring our modern thinking to the status of womanhood, we tend to disparage the old order. But the reality is that even in the context of going to war, at a moment when the women will gather together and say, we are not happy with the proposed conduct of war, that particular statement rang in the ears of the men. And therefore, there was always a way of regarding what the women said. Women of old had a mysterious and yes, I mean soft, but yet mysterious power that kind of restrained certain actions from the men. So it was not all black and white, or the kind of thing where one, for instance, because a woman was mistreated, you want to kind of a kind of spread it over the entire regard the old order had for women. So we have to be able to treat some of these things with caution in terms of how we believe we've understood them.
Yeah, because in Dahomey they had Dahomey women warriors.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we have we sometimes do fall prey to is grouping Africa as one.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be. There were women soldiers, there were women warriors, there were women rulers. In
Mm.
fact, is it Asantiwa who was
Yeah.
sent to exile?
Yeah.
She was
Yes.
a woman ruler,
Mm.
that was sent to exile.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people forget that even in this country, women didn't get the right to vote in
Yeah.
1920.
Yeah.
And in fact, when they got the right to vote, women of color did not get the right to vote
Mm.
at the same time.
Okay.
So people tend to forget, and people like to say, oh, America is progressive, but it
Mm.
was 1920 when
Mm.
they when they got the right, the women got the right to vote. So don't forget that.
Mm.
Okay,
It's
so
really
okay,
a
yeah. So I
movement.
think and those are the comments, Prof. Yeah. So I think for I think that for Izuelu, that when he told his friend that, oh, I'm sending my son to the white school because this is a new disease and I want him to learn. I think that was good. But as a chief priest, I would say that, I think it should have been someone else,
Mm.
another person's child and not his child. But yeah.
Perhaps he wanted, like people always say, if you are a leader, then you must model your good leadership. Perhaps that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah,
Well,
and
anyway.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
and then his other son died. I think
Yeah,
Obika
yeah,
died.
Obika
Yeah, so
died in a mysterious way.
yeah, yeah. So he
Mm.
has so Iswelu had his trials,
Mm.
and I think the hair that broke the camel's back
Mm.
was the fact that when he was there for the 4 days stewing in
Mm.
jail, he was
Yeah,
just imagining things, and
yeah,
that's why they said that, this man, he has inherited his
yeah.
mother's madness.
Mm.
Because he really thought that they were discussing him and laughing at him and things like that.
Mhm.
So yeah. So
Okay.
before we close, I would like to say a big thank you to Sis Francis Wilson for donating to the show. We are we
Yeah,
are we are most grateful to you.
yeah, okay.
It will allow us to stay on, buy
Yeah,
books, because yeah, we thank you very much, and we thank all of you
yeah,
for joining us.
yeah.
I think this is the last in the trilogy, Things Fall
Mm.
Apart, and I mean, I think we've discussed Things Fall Apart.
Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah.
done.
So, Prof, we're about to close now. We
Mm.
always say 1 hour, and we end up staying more. So,
Mm.
any words for
Well,
our guests, I mean, our attendees who
yes,
listening?
well, I again, I, I, one of the things I said earlier on today was that this book provides a lot of depth to the African personality in terms of some of the features of the personality that are discussed in the book. So people should be able to really look at that book in terms of seeking to understand the African personality. The other thing I like to talk about is that, please, it is easy to pick out one or two things and make a profound statement on the African character and what have you, which will not be of good service in terms of once we want to demonstrate our capacity of critical thinking and what have you. To one of the things that kind of stirred me a little was this in any way trying to celebrate slavery, and all that. No matter how well you wanted to twist it, but the best thing is that, please, let's strive as much as possible to get more informed, get a deeper information, so that when we talk about old order and new order, we will know what we're talking about. Always try as much as possible to keep informed. Okay.
Yeah, and we want to thank you again for joining us today. We know that sometimes it's difficult when it's when it's a Friday, and but we have a cult following. That's what I like to say. That they come every Friday at 6 o'clock to listen to us, and we would really like for you to, like Dwight and Tilo, read the book, join the discussion. If as Prof and I said the other day, if you want to come on and let's discuss a book,
Please, you are
please,
welcome.
we can discuss books, all the time. We can do that. So let's do that. And we want to say thank you. We want to say enjoy your weekend. Mask up, be safe, and as always, lift Liberia up.
Yes.
We are deeply sorry for the tragedy in Newtown.
Yeah.
We pray for the people there, the children, the families that have been torn apart. We pray that God comfort them, that He welcome those who've passed home, and we keep them in our thoughts and prayers. So be safe, and don't forget, we are all Liberians, and we are all on this journey to make Liberia a better place. Thank you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people.